Okay, this recording is about another electoral system used in the UK, which is called SV, which stands for the supplementary vote. Okay, first of all, where is it used? It's used to elect the London Mayor. Okay, so here's the current London Mayor, Sadiq Khan. It's also used within England, Wales and Scotland to elect police and crime commissioners as well. These are these creations of Theresa May when she was Home Secretary in 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. Why do they use this system? Because you're not representing parliaments or legislatures with this system. You're electing an individual to take up one position. And it was seen that it was desirable, if you're electing one person for a job, that they should get 50% or more of the vote. So this is a majoritarian system, and its main objective is to try and get a single winner, a single person, preferably who had 50% plus of the available votes. Okay, hence why SV was chosen. So, to explain how the system works. So, every voter gets 2 votes. They're actually called preferences, not votes, but everyone gets 2 votes essentially. So, what you do is that you give a candidate who you like the most your first preference, your first choice. So, if you really like the Monster Raving Looney Party candidate, for example, they get number 1. And then you have a second vote for in case that person is knocked out. And I'll explain that in a few moments. So you have a first choice and then you have a second choice. Now, if a candidate gets 50% of the vote or more based off first choices of people, then they are automatically elected. Job sorted. So if we voted for London Mayor, and let's say that Labour got 56% of the vote on the first choice, then Labour's candidate Sadiq Khan would be elected. No other activity is required. However, if that doesn't happen, which is probably in quite a few cases, what they then do is they count all the first preference votes, no one gets 50%, so what they then do, they knock out, they eliminate every candidate apart from the top 2. So the person who got the most votes and the person who got the second to most votes, those 2 candidates stay in the race. Everybody else is got rid of. And then what they then do is that they then count the second preferences of all those people who've been eliminated. So if you had voted Monster Raving Looney Party first preference and then you'd voted Conservative second preference, the chances are that the Monster Raving Looney Party person would probably be eliminated. And then your second preference, which would be for the Conservatives, will be added to the Conservative Party list of votes. If you'd voted for the person who came first, they'd be on that one as well. So they count all the second preferences of all the eliminated candidates of those who voted for one of the people who came first and second. So voters need to have something in the back of their mind thinking, right, the chances are that Labour and the Liberal Democrats are going to come first and second here, or Labour and the Conservatives will. So I need to make sure my second preference vote is for one of those 2 parties. If you voted Monster Raving Looney Party and Green Party as your second preference, the chances are your second preference wouldn't get counted either. But if your second preference went to someone in the top 2, then it would be counted. I hope that kind of made sense. So let's show an example of this. So this was the first preference votes for the last election for the Mayor of London. So as you can see on the first preferences, the first round if you like, Sadiq Khan Labour got 48% of the vote, Zac Goldsmith 32%, Peter Whittle, who was UKIP, got 7%, Sean Berry 6%, etc, etc, etc. So, in the second round, Sadiq Khan and Zac Goldsmith survive. All these other people are eliminated, Peter Whittle onwards. Now, if you'd voted UKIP with your first preference for Peter Whittle and your second preference vote went to the Liberal Democrats, which is probably unlikely, but anyway, let's say it was, then your second preference wouldn't be counted either, because it isn't one of these top two people. If though you'd voted UKIP and your second preference was Conservative, which is probably more likely, then your second preference vote will be added on to this 32% of Zac Goldsmith. If you voted Green or Lib Dem and your second preference vote went to Labour, then Sadiq Khan would get some of those votes. And this was the final result. So when all these people were eliminated, they counted the second preference votes who'd voted for one of these two people. And as we can see, Sadiq Khan got 60% of the vote, Zac Goldsmith got 40%, therefore Sadiq Khan was elected Mayor of London. There are certain advantages and there are certain disadvantages of this system, as there is for most things. Firstly, it seems being quite easy to operate. People just go in there, put across by who they like. Seems quite simple. It does allow a greater choice for the voters, so there is an opportunity for people to vote for smaller parties. It does allow, in that first preference, you can vote with your heart, I suppose, and then with your second preference vote, perhaps vote a bit more kind of pragmatically. And as I said, the winning candidate usually gets 50% or more of the vote, which again, if you're electing one person for a position, that might be seen as a good thing because it gives that kind of legitimacy. There are some disadvantages though. Sometimes the winning candidate might not get 50% of the first preference votes, but still go on to win. So if we go back to that London mayor, for example, let's just go back to it. What can happen sometimes. Sadiq Khan got 48 and Zac Goldsmith 32, but let's say in the second preference votes that Zac Goldsmith overtook Sadiq Khan and won, which would be a slightly odd result, you might argue, because the person who came second in the first round might actually win, and if all these other people, voters, all voted for Zac Goldsmith and none of them voted for Sadiq Khan, then Zac Goldsmith, who came second on the first preference, might actually win. And this has happened. It happened in Warwickshire for the Crime and Police Commissioners. So if you look at the first round in 2012, this is the first ever election they had for Crime and Police Commissioners in 2012. Labour got the highest number of first preference votes. This first round is first preference. Labour got 34%. Ron Ball, who's an independent, got 33.3%. The Conservatives were knocked out with 32%. However, it probably isn't rocket science to realise that not many Conservative voters are going to vote Labour on their second preference. They will probably vote independent, which is what they did, because on the second round, James Plaskett, Labour, got 43%, and then Ron Ball, the independent, got 56.9%. So the guy that came second on the first round actually won on the second round. Okay, so I hope that kind of makes some sense. There are some questions on this in your booklet which you need to do, and as we just had a sneaky look, the next video is about STV, which is a slightly more complex system.